End of days forecast, how much do we really know about what was written thousands of years ago and is happening right now? Exactly for this reason, I asked Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi to come to our studio to answer all the questions. Hello to the Honorable Rabbi. Hello. Thank you very much for your time, Rabbi. It is not taken for granted and we greatly appreciate it. The end of days, how much does this topic occupy you, Rabbi? What? You know, I've been talking about this for close to 30 years. We're all waiting for these days and it seems we're on the sure path there. Rabbi, in your opinion, do world security events like the war in Ukraine and generally everything happening in the Middle East, are they part of the signs of the end times? Of course, because now the conditions are ripe for the prophecy in the prophet Zechariah.
It describes that 2/3 of the world will be annihilated in a few minutes. And of course, he's talking about an atomic war. And now we see that they are already talking about the atom, something they did not talk about in previous years. Putin is already talking about it, and North Korea and NATO, all European countries, meaning things are getting very heated, and who knows, suddenly within a month or two, they might lose their composure, and then in seconds, it will all be in seconds. We only have what the Gemara says, Torah, an act of kindness to be saved from these days.
Rabbi, you see, back then when they used to fight, it wasn't like today's modern wars. The modern wars are more... Do you find a connection between the prophecy written in the holy books and modern wars?
Sure, when there is everything written, that is the seed you put in the ground. In the seed itself, there is already genetically the entire tree and its size and its fertility. The same thing here when you have verses in the prophets or in the Zohar or in all the holy places. So this is what you see, that it will ripen in its time, and we see it before our eyes now that the world is ready for Gog and Magog, which it wasn't, for example, 50 years ago. Now the conditions have ripened, also the conditions that the Talmud gave signs of before the time of the Messiah, what would happen in the world. 50 years ago, no condition was fulfilled, and today all the conditions have been fulfilled. So what are these to us? Minutes, seconds, hours, days beforehand. These days mentioned in the prophets. Rabbi, can we understand if it's really minutes, hours, or days? It is impossible to know for sure, because the process is, even when you read something in the Torah about wars and things and journeys, it sounds like it was 2 days, a week, 2 weeks. Sometimes it's dozens of years. You understand, for example, the story of the book of Esther. It was 9 years, 12 years, a very long period. You read it in the scroll in 40 minutes and it seems to you like it took a month. These are things that took years. The same thing, these wars could take 20, 30 years. It's not something that happens overnight. What is the role of the messengers in all the global events? A crucial role. First of all, we are supposed to be light bearers. We are supposed to awaken the whole world to faith in God, to do repentance, so that they will be saved from Gog and Magog and from these terrible days. Now, if we do this, it's good for us, good for the world. If we don't, it's bad for everyone. That's the reality, more or less.
Rabbi, it seems that many countries in the world are starting to fall apart, both morally and socially. Is this another sign of the decline that our compassion speaks of?
First of all, know this. Anyone who harmed the people of Israel will ultimately be held accountable. What you see with all the Arab countries falling apart, that's what you see with Hamas taking a hit, and Hezbollah and Syria and Iran now, and they are about to take a lot more hits than they have until now. Oh, this is the Almighty's reckoning to give those who deserve it what they deserve. The time will also come for the Russians, the Chinese, and and all the other countries that harmed and hated the people of Israel, the Europeans who have been anti-Semitic since forever. They are suffering greatly from the Ishmaelites who have conquered Europe and are making their lives miserable. And all of Europe is also collapsing economically. Anyone who harmed the people of Israel will eventually face consequences, whether sooner or later.
Rabbi, how can we really understand the distinction between regular wars and, let's say, more spiritual wars that ultimately relate to this process called Gog and Magog?
Everything you see physically started spiritually. You only see the results. Now it's like writing a script, the script of everything that will be in the movie, that's Yawma Sindamo. And in the end, you see how they executed it in the script. You can't make the movie different from the script. Now what you see before your eyes is according to the script of the creator of the world. and we will see how it ends. That's it.
There is a connection between wars happening in the world and wars happening specifically in Jerusalem.
Everything that happens in the world is connected to the people of Israel. This is explicitly mentioned in the Talmud, and the prophets
Yes, to the
spoke about
painter,
it.
not at the beginning of the conversation, but
When
the
you see
question
now
if
Russia and Ukraine killing each other, it is related to the people of Israel. How is it related to the people of Israel? Very simply, Russia stood behind the Arabs for 70 to 80 years, sold them weapons against us, helped them against us in all the wars. Russia is now being punished for all those years. Ukraine murdered 1.5 million Jews. They killed more Jews than the Nazis and did it voluntarily. No one forced them. And now they are paying a heavy price for what they did over those years against the people of Israel. So that means you see the war between them. They think it's because they hate each other, or it's about this island or this border. And in the end, it is God who creates conflict between them so that they will be punished for what they did to the Jews, for the murders of Jews, and for the fact that millions of Jews passed through there, suffered there, and in Siberia. All this is ultimately measure for measure. Even what you will see in North Korea and all that is going to happen in Iran now, it's all information against information.
And how much do we Jews need to prepare for a war related to what was written thousands of
The
years
Gemara answered
ago?
your question. The Gemara said that the birth pangs of the Messiah are like labor pains. Just as the closer it gets to the birth time, the pains and contractions increase and so on. So it will be before the complete arrival of the Messiah. The hardships intensified. You see, it started with Corona and went to October 7 and a year and a half of suffering and kidnappings and social division and everything you see. Unfortunately, you know that these things can worsen sevenfold, as we have not yet reached the peak or turning point. The Gemara addresses this question. The Gemara says what a person should do to be saved from the birth pains of the Messiah, from Gog and Magog. Engage in Torah study and acts of kindness. Study a lot of Torah, strengthen oneself and correct character traits. Work on his bad traits and get rid of all the evil. Engage in many acts of kindness, help the needy, donate money, bring people closer to the Torah, clean the synagogue, bring food to the destitute, orphans, widows, visiting the sick. There is no lack of kindness. There is a huge list that every person can improve upon. Rabbi, what is the correct way to truly maintain faith and trust in our generation in this catastrophic reality, besides reading famous books that talk about faith and trust and listening to speakers who speak very strongly about faith and trust? You also need to give a tenth. It is not enough to do good. The Torah says turn away from evil and do good. What does turn away from evil mean? It means to turn away from all those heretics, from all those politicians, from all those leftists who spread poison against the Torah, against God. As little as possible to look at their face. It is forbidden to look at the face of a wicked person, all the more so not to connect with him, listen to him, or be influenced by him. So we must disconnect from the evil. As little as possible to see them, as little as possible to listen to the nonsense they talk, and strengthen yourself with good rabbis from the Torah. Come to yeshivas, sit and learn in groups. This is what will save us in the end. There is no solution, no magic trick other than this.
We are recording this idea and the hostages are still captive. How is it possible that no solution is found? After all, everything is written in the holy books and all the terrible tragedies.
Unfortunately, on that terrible day, they took many hostages. Let's say that if they hadn't taken hostages, they would have killed whom they killed, and whoever survived. The war would have been 7 times easier. You wouldn't have problems. You wouldn't be afraid to bomb. You could enter freely everywhere. It held our hands in shackles all this time, knowing there are hostages there. The question now is, how many of those hostages are alive? I wish I were wrong, but something inside me tells me the situation is not so good, for the simple reason that they offered $5 million for each hostage. And for the Arab living in a torn Gaza without any future, bringing a hostage for $5 million and a new passport and a new life in Europe, like a king with $5 million that he wouldn't earn in 5,000 years of work. In Gaza, yes, and one didn't bring any hostage. For me, that bodes ill. I don't know. I have great doubt about how many are alive. I wish I'm wrong. I wish many are alive, but logically, something inside me tells me that the situation is not so good with the hostages.
Rabbi, how is the prediction of the end of days mentioned in the books of prophecy?
It is written specifically in the 10th chapter of the prophet Zechariah, right at the end of the 10th and beginning of the 10th, that the Holy One, blessed be He, will bring a situation in the world where 2/3 of the world will be annihilated in a moment, and the remaining third will undergo a period of filtering. And gradually the Holy One will also cleanse them unless they have merited to repent. Jews and non-Jews, the righteous, those are the only ones who will remain in the world. This is what He said in the prophecy that is recited every morning in the prayer, and the Rebellion and the Redeemer shall come to Zion. It is for those who repent of transgression in Jacob. The Redeemer comes for the righteous and for those who have repented only. He does not come for those who rebelled against the Creator, burned the Torah, mocked the Torah, fought the religious, fought the yeshivas, wanted to close the Talmud and remove the yeshiva students and end the Torah of Israel. For them, the Messiah does not come. Those who rebelled against the Holy One, blessed be He, they are destined to face judgment and pay the price. Those who did withstand the trials, those who did follow the will of God, whether they are Jewish or non-Jewish, or he has the merit to be saved, and he will be saved. But there are those who will be partially saved, and there are those who will be saved through a difficult period of restrictions.
The Rabbi mentioned the prophet Zechariah, and there it talks about how essentially all nations will rise. China, Russia
will rise against Jerusalem. They decided that's it, we're no longer fighting separately, we're all uniting and moving against Jerusalem. And then after a difficult period here, then God will step in and they will get what they deserve. Their eyes will sink in their sockets, their limbs will shrivel. Various things. By the way, when the prophet wrote this, there wasn't even a gun, there was nothing. What was there? There were swords, bows, lances and stones that were thrown with a sling in the time of the prophet. Those were the weapons. To write that 2/3 of the world will die in minutes, as the genius from Vilna interprets it, in 12 minutes. It is, of course, referring to atomic or biological weapons, and therefore we know that this prophecy speaks of our times, because until this generation it was not possible to annihilate 5 billion people in a few minutes.
Rabbi, what is the meaning of Jerusalem being a burdensome stone for all peoples?
I'll tell you, there are many things in the prophecies that are very hard to know. First, because a genius interprets it a bit differently from another. The third thing is that even when there is a bad prophecy, it does not have to come true. Even when it says that such and such will happen, if we who bring others closer succeed in engaging another million Jews to draw near and keep Shabbat and start getting involved in Torah study, then everything you see written as bad can turn into good. Look, today Jerusalem is really like the sought-after diamond that everyone wants. Everyone is fighting. The father will leave a diamond and all the siblings argue over it. But in the end, I explained to you that everyone will want Jerusalem. Look at the Muslims with their deceptions and frauds. They suddenly turned Jerusalem into a holy city for them, even though I am not mentioned at all in their texts. And on the contrary, those who were sinners were cast into Jerusalem. Jerusalem never meant anything to them, but since the Creator of the world said prophecies that in the last days everyone will fight over Jerusalem, He changed their mentality, and the brainwashing they do to each other, and suddenly Jerusalem has become the most important thing in their eyes. They want to turn it into the capital of Palestine. They invented people that never existed. It was and wasn't created. A collection of Arabs from many countries who suddenly decided to call themselves by the name of the Philistines, Palestinians like it's Philistines, those Philistines that were then. And anyway, it's all one big deception, all one big fraud, but the Holy One, blessed be He, has patience and forbearance, and in the end they are all destined to pay for everything they have done, from the smallest thing to the largest.
I don't know if the rabbi is aware. I sit here every Saturday night with Kabbalist Rabbi Yosef Bitton, and he has often spoken about a war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, drawing this from Kabbalistic books. How is this related to the modern situation we are in?
The world is very simply divided into two camps. There are soldiers of the Creator of the world, and there are soldiers of Satan. Those who are righteous, or at least strive to be righteous. he does good things, and when he already fails at something, it hurts him, and he repents and tries to improve. He is under the authority of the Holy One, blessed be He. That means we, the Holy One, blessed be He, sends us on missions that He is interested in. And who does He use? People who are on the positive side. And then there is Satan, whose role is to mislead the world, to spiritually destroy the world, to destroy human beings, to cause all the evil you see in the world. And the Satan has in his possession, under his control, only the wicked. The Satan cannot influence a righteous scholar who toils in the Torah. He is not under his control. Who is in his possession? All those Erev Rav, all the leftists who hate the Torah, those who disturb prayers on Yom Kippur, those who fight and cry out against the yeshiva students, they are in the possession of the Satan, and the Satan uses them as he pleases. This is what the Rabbi told you. The war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness. We spread light, spread the Torah. Torah is light, and they spread darkness, hatred towards God, hatred towards the Torah, and hatred towards morality. And you see it in every country. It's not just in Israel. Rabbi, can it be understood that this is part of the process of this war of Gog and Magog? Absolutely, it is part of the final clarification. Before the war, to explain to you, when we were children 50 years ago, the people of Israel were divided like this. There were, let's say, 10% Haredi, 10% different religion, extreme leftists, what was then called Peace Now, and various types of communists, and 80% of the people were traditional. Traditional, what does it mean? Half-half. Half religious, half secular. Over the past 30 to 40 years, these 80% who were half-half had to choose a side. There's no more half and half. Either you go all the way and repent, becoming a true Torah scholar, commonly known as ultra-Orthodox, or you completely abandon it and become entirely secular. And notice, this is what has been happening in recent years. People have chosen sides. You can also see it based on how they vote in elections. What are their spiritual beliefs? What is their spiritual outlook?
Rabbi, look, we're talking about the 9. You're saying to choose a side. I want to talk with you for a moment about the Netanyahu trial and what's happening on the streets here in Israel. What do you think?
Netanyahu is a scapegoat. He is at the top of the pyramid today, so all the leftists are focusing on him. Tomorrow it will be someone else, and they will fight against him. It's not necessarily him. They caught him on some small things, didn't do, and so on, and they themselves know that a mountain has given birth to a mouse here and so on, but they have nothing to grasp, especially in the last year when he is very successful in navigating the war and the successes on the battlefields, and it kills them. Instead of rejoicing that the people of Israel rose from the ashes and the deep pit we were sunk in, and within a year everything turned for the better. We managed to crush Hamas, succeeded against Hezbollah, Syria collapsed, and Iran is at the brink before the end of those cursed ayatollahs there. Instead of standing and clapping for Bibi and telling him the truth, as they say, you nailed it. But of course, they don't care about the good of the country or the good of the people of Israel. They only care about ruling and to oppress us and impose on us their wickedness, their coldness toward religion, their coldness toward the name, and their coldness toward the land of Israel. They want to give the land to foreigners, to turn this state into a state of immorality parades, a state of intermarriage and assimilation, a country of ingrate teenagers who do not recognize the goodness of the Creator, a country that takes young children and corrupts them, turning them into deviants from a young age. That is what interests them there. And therefore, anyone who stands in their way, whether it is while I am still here or later, will not succeed. He is a target, and they will do everything to succeed in their scheme, but it will not succeed, for their swords will turn and pierce their own hearts.
Look, you are talking here about choosing sides, and you say that the left is envious of the right, and standing at its head is Bibi. So excuse my phrasing, it is possible that the Arab is influenced by the magic of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Not at all. I am not one of his big fans. I have never voted for him.
Visit him last?
I am not on friendly terms with him. I have criticism. We have criticism. I criticized him in some of the sermons. Look, before October 7th, his performance wasn't good.
Do you think he has a share in October?
Certainly anyone who was a prime minister in the last 30 years anyone who was a defense minister, anyone who was a chief of staff, anyone who was a head of intelligence, everyone neglected their duty and did not perform their task faithfully. They allowed our enemies around us to arm themselves, to strengthen, to dig endless tunnels endlessly, and did not count them.
So do they need to go home?
And if they go home, then what?
So there will be someone else who might clear things up more?
There will be another loser. Who will it be? People who don't have divine assistance won't be helped by anything.
Who did you say gave Yahweh Shelzad permission?
Let me tell you something. Until October 7th, he didn't have any heavenly aid. The fact is we reached such a low point. The fact is he didn't perform his duties as a prime minister should. It said they deceived him and lied to him. And the military people don't always tell the truth. Maybe if
what
he
an
had,
amazing view
it is possible
they have.
that if we knew all the details, then he is truly
What
innocent.
are we assuming?
Anything is possible. I do not like to speak with certainty about things when I do not know all the details. But certainly, all those who have managed the country for 40 years and allowed the enemy to grow to such an extent did not foresee what was coming and should have taken preventive measures. Now, since we were struck by this blow and the terrible suffering we have been enduring for a year and a half, fortunately he is functioning well. He pulled himself together. He got hit like all of us. He realized that this time he can't be halfway, one foot here and one foot there. He understood that now he's going with the right and going all the way. He didn't break. He stood up to all the pressures. It's possible that the connection with God is really helping him a lot more now after all the blows and humiliations
like
he faced.
When he went to a ceasefire agreement with Hezbollah, it's the same mistake he made in those years with Hamas. Allah Norim, is that what they're telling us? Are there still thousands of soldiers? Are there thousands of soldiers?
Hezbollah are finished, and if you ask me, we should conquer half of Lebanon up to Jerusalem. Not just, in my opinion, to conquer all these areas and no one can live close to us. You wild animals, you cannot approach our border. In my opinion, we need to conquer all of Gaza so that no Ishmaelite will ever again set foot on the soil of Gaza.
And we will finance
the method against the Arabs is every time they attack you and come to murder Jews, you need to punish them with land because they have no value for life. Even if you kill 1 million terrorists, it doesn't matter to them because they will immediately produce 5 million new ones. This is not a problem for them. Every child that is born is brainwashed to become a murderer.
So what's actually your down?
Only land that kills them takes their land. Next time they will think 1,000,000 times before messing with you. There's nothing to do. You have to fight your enemy in a way that that is effective. And what delays him and prevents him from attacking further, it is important to eliminate their people, execute the terrorists. Put tens of thousands of terrorists in prison under harsh conditions. It doesn't affect them. One thing kills them. They take 5 kilometers of land from them. They sit and cry about it and will cry about it forever and ever. To this day, they cry about Spain that they conquered for a short time, and then the Spaniards expelled them from there. To this day, they cry about the land they claim is theirs from their perspective. I don't know why the praise did that. The most important thing to them is sand and land. That's what matters to them.
Rabbi, so you are clarifying what I'm really saying. It could be that Netanyahu's place is not in leading the state, because here he made an agreement with Hezbollah when the rabbi claims that another letter should be read aloud.
He is a rabbi by his essence. There is no leader today sitting among 120 people in the Knesset who can do a quarter of what he knows how
Bennett
to do.
Is capable.
You are talking about the person who committed the greatest betrayal in the history of the people of Israel since the days of Kamza and Bar Kamza. He betrayed all of Israel, not just his voters. He went with the founders of Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, and sat with them. After a week, when he stood in the studio and promised in writing, in the studio with all his performances and all his bluff, Bibi, are you willing to come sign that you won't sit with Yair Lapid and with the leftists and with Meretz and with the Muslim Brotherhood? Everything he committed to, he did the opposite. Can you trust such a person?
But
tell me, I'm asking you, are you willing to trust such a person?
So I will tell the rabbi, I will answer
the rabbi. Such a person has no place in the country at all. Forget about politics for a moment
said
now.
Before the elections that he promised to lower prices for nurseries and kindergartens, and what didn't he promise? And the prices are only going up, so he lied about this and lies about that.
Listen carefully, prices are not
Rabbi,
fixed.
because I understand that politicians do not know how to tell the truth. Certainly when it comes to before elections.
Prices do not depend on politicians. It's just an illusion to talk about prices.
So that's how Nafnaf will come and open
I'll
other
explain
things.
to you. The cost does not depend on the state
Rabbi,
of Israel.
you
It is a
evaded
result
the
of actions in
subject
the
of
world.
the discussion. Netanyahu lied to you, Rabbi. So
No.
Rabbi
I'll
is
explain
saying
to
that
you when
nothing
he
can be
went and
promised.
said, we'll do this and cut, etc. That was before the war broke out. War cost tens of billions of dollars.
But the Rabbi, until the war started, over a year passed, and he did nothing to lower the prices during this year.
First of all, I will explain to you that it does not depend on him. There are actions in the
Then
world,
a
things
son
happening.
of war
This is
will
real
come,
estate and
Rabbi,
price
a
growth and
son of
raw
war
materials.
will
Basically,
come,
is that
Rabbi.
suddenly Turkey boycotted you, and it's impossible to
But
buy raw
Shusi
materials
will
from
come,
Turkey. That
okay,
alone raises
right,
the prices. Agreed,
and you
the Rabbi came.
approached Reuven.
How could he know that the psychopathic Erdogan would suddenly decide to sever Turkey from the state of Israel? Completely agree with the point the Rabbi raises here, but who am I against? Even Bennett will come and say,
thank you very much.
The reality of Israel, leave it. He is betraying the people of Israel. Leave it. There's no comparison between someone who wanted to lower prices and failed to someone who went and committed and wrote and went
in
with the enemies of Israel just for the sake of resting
the price. He must. There are Jews. He promises to standing in the supermarket holding a bottle of challah and promising to lower the price.
You know what you sound like you're comparing someone who murdered 100 people to someone who stole 5 shekels from someone's pocket. They are not comparable. To put them in the same sentence.
Let your life explode with
Putting
understanding.
Bibi and that person in the same sentence, that's, excuse me for saying this, utter foolishness.
Evening, according to your claim
stupidity.
from the parable, evening brings here essentially Bennett murdered Butch.
He is destroying the nation of Israel. All the workers from Gaza, he is the one who gave them the permits to go there.
And we are dealing with the Rabbi's turn, there is a way to forgive him.
Absolutely not. There is no fixing him.
Is there a Jew who has no remedy?
There certainly are many like that.
Rabbi, is the event with Bennett part of an end of days prophecy? Could this event have been written thousands of years ago?
There is no such thing, Maimonides writes, that the Holy One, blessed be He, decrees on a person to do evil or to do good. The people choose from their own knowledge and desire and their cravings. He did what he did from the craving to sit on the chair and say, I am the Prime Minister, Shapala. That's why he betrayed his voters. He betrayed the people of Israel. He went with the enemies of Israel who declared they want to destroy us, who are the Muslim Brotherhood. Even in Egypt and Jordan, they outlawed them, and he went and sat with them and went with the extreme left and sat with them. And by the way, he is among those who most hate yeshiva students. When they wanted to raise a few shekels for yeshiva students, he wrote on his Twitter 5 minutes before Shabbat that it would be a disaster for generations, that the state would go bankrupt. He agreed to give billions to the Muslim Brotherhood who hate Israel, but he won't agree to give a few more million shekels to yeshiva students, thanks to whom we breathe and exist. So that means to terrorists, to Nazis who want to burn us all, he has no problem approving billions. How much was given or not doesn't matter anymore. From us, he agreed to give them 50-something billion there. And for yeshiva students, it bothers him to give another 500 shekels to a person who devotes himself to the study of Torah. This already shows you who the person is. Therefore, I don't even know how you consider him as an option. A person who votes for this person is the greatest fool in history.
In a democratic country, both sides need to be heard. I'm not saying this is my side, and I'm not saying there's...
You will know us.
I'm reflecting the viewers' opinions, and there are also viewers like this.
Now we are interested in what the Torah's perspective is, what the Torah says. We are not interested in the state's perspective. The state is based on the culture of the nations. This state was established on the culture of the nations, on communism, and on various things that are against the Torah. There's abomination here. There are laws that are against the Torah, and so on and so forth. But one also needs to know that this whole matter of democracy is against the Torah. In the Torah, there is no such thing. In the Torah, you take the wise and most holy people, and they should run the country. Now, if the majority in the country consists of traitors, adulterers, thieves, etc., and they are the majority, then they will decide how to run the country. They will bring the country down to the depths.
Rabbi, I wanted to ask you what the role of the Messiah King is, but in our time and wars in general, but we don't have time left. Maybe we'll do it in another program. Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, thank you very much, esteemed Rabbi, and with your closing word, what merit does someone have who shares the program
privilege.
talked about today.
Every person who shares, then everyone who sees and is strengthened, it goes into their account. It's pure profit.
Sid
I
from
can't.
it. So if you enjoyed, learned, became wiser and strengthened just like me, it's your time to share the broadcast. Like it makes the broadcast reach more audiences. Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, thank you very much, Rabbi. All the best, good tidings.
Celeb work, who is the Soul Jam?